Hello everyone and welcome to The Vortex, where lies and falsehoods are trapped and exposed. I'm Michael Voris. Many stories or situations present themselves for topics for The Vortex, too many in fact. The Vortex was specifically designed to shine a light on situations in the church or the world that threaten or do harm to the faith. The reason is simple and straightforward. When harm is done to the faith, harm is done to souls. It's just that simple. Threats from outside the church are one thing, but threats to the faith from inside the church are of a completely different nature and order of magnitude. Facing down a known enemy is one thing. Having to deal with your supposed allies in the faith stabbing the church in the back is completely different. So, to that end, we need to talk about it because it needs to be talked about. The unwillingness on the part of so many in the church to look plainly at the facts is both mystifying and disturbing. Some people seem to be of the opinion that to say anything publicly of an ongoing matter of spiritual or temporal corruption is somehow disobedient or gives scandal. Well, if it's being addressed or being resolved privately, it probably is better to stay quiet and let others fix it. Some people seem to think that talking about some bad or evil is just too much of a downer. These stories are saddening, no doubt about it. Sometimes they're even distressing. Other people seem to think that to criticize or demand public accountability of people in charge is arrogant and disrespectful. Unfair criticism does certainly fall under that category, but in each of these cases of objection, to remain silent lends a tacit support to the evil. We only need to think of the homosexual priest sex abuse scandal to see the point. These same types of arguments were made about keeping that under wraps. Don't talk about it, it will give scandal. To say anything would be disobedient to the bishop. It's just too sad and horrible to talk about. Only the people in charge should handle such matters. To disregard them is arrogant and disrespectful. Well, we see where those lines of reasoning ended up. Bankrupt diocese after diocese, the disillusionment of millions, crimes, jail sentences, suicides, never-ending headlines, the church dragged through the mud, and all because what should have been talked about and dragged out into the light much earlier simply wasn't. The idea of secrecy, or better, privacy, exists in the church in part so that people can be unencumbered as they search their souls and seek ways to unite or reunite themselves to a loving Father. Much of the work of finding our heavenly home is private, as it should be, because it is deeply personal. But when the secrecy and privacy offered to souls is then abused and hidden behind to advance evils and anti-church activities, then the false claim to privacy evaporates. Every activity in the church, every activity must be oriented to the salvation of souls. This is the only charter the church has. When that is betrayed or supplanted, and the tactic of keeping things out of the public forum is used as a cover, then it's time to go public. People, Catholics, not only have a right to know about corruption in the church, they have a duty and a responsibility to fight against it to whatever degree their personal circumstances allow. The overarching principle to always bear in mind is this: the church belongs to Christ, no human person or agent. We are all, in whatever way we are called, merely custodians and caretakers of the truth that has been revealed to us. It is up to each of us as individuals to safeguard this truth in our own lives and help others come to the reality of this truth. That is what being Catholic is all about. When others, even those in the church, work against this principle, they must be exposed. Not with violence or unkindness, but they must surely and certainly be opposed. It is not possible to suggest specific steps to be taken in every situation. Only principles can be proposed here. Catholics of all rank, clergy and religious and laity, simply cannot keep their heads buried in the sand and claim ignorance. We don't get to look the other way when the bride of Christ is being battered and abused, most especially, when that abuse comes from those charged with cherishing her the most. There are always real victims when the truth is ignored or downplayed or neglected. That's the easy thing to forget. While everyone is running around carrying on about lack of charity or imprudence or appropriateness in exposing these corruptions, what seldom seems to come up in all of the fuss is the fate of the souls exposed to these evils. When Catholic, Marquette University places a well-known pro-abortion, pro-gay former U.S. Senator, Russ Feingold, on its faculty now, it bespeaks a willingness to go along with the culture and reward a man whose voting record has been a direct slap in the face of what the church teaches in these areas. Were there no good Catholic professors around who could have been hired? When the Archdiocese of Boston, as announced today, caves into the culture and issues a directive that their schools cannot discriminate against categories of children for admission in response to criticism about not letting the child of a lesbian couple be admitted, it too bespeaks a willingness to run away from its duty to take a stand for Christ. When bishops around the country, like Howard Hubbard in Albany, personally distribute Holy Communion to known pro-abortion, pro-gay politicians, or when they allow it, or even fail to issue a public decree restating that these people should not be approaching for Holy Communion, the church suffers. The faithful suffer. So the question is this: what's a faithful Catholic to do? Ignore all of these kinds of things going on? Pay some sort of lip service and pretend that the very people causing the problem are somehow also quietly fixing it? While the faithful laity fiddles, Rome burns. God bless you. I'm Michael Voris.
Please help us keep delivering these kinds of messages that so desperately need to be heard and acted on. Join RealCatholicTV.com today as a premium subscriber. Become immersed in the faith established by Jesus Christ. The Catholic Church is the only hope against evil because that is its God-given mission. As our Lord said, apart from me, you can do nothing. Join RealCatholicTV.com today as a premium subscriber and come to learn and love Christ more deeply.